Okay. Hello, our audience at FUCCHA. We have with us Mr. Hitesh Oberoi, who is the CEO and Managing Director at Naukri.com, and we would, we'll have an interview with him for youth to know how Naukri has become what it is today, and how Mr. Hitesh has made a difference. So my first question to you is, what led you to leave your job within MNC? I must say it was an Indian arm for big MNC, and an aspirational job out of an IIM HLL it was at that time, and then joined the team at Naukri.com.
So we have to go back to 1999. So HLL was my first job after campus. I worked there for 3.5 years. So towards in 1999, there was a desire to do something different, and that's when I met Sanjeev, who had started Naukri at that time. And these were very early days in the internet era. There were hardly a few thousand internet sort of accounts in the country, and I met Sanjeev and we decided to do something together. And the idea was, because Sanjeev was already doing something in jobs, and it was a small operation out of his house, and they were the concept of VC was very new, and Naukri was not VC funded. We decided to start another business, so another site. So we started a site called FUCCHA, which was a deals and discount site. The idea was to create a database of discounts and deals, which people would visit to understand what was being discounted where, and take actions accordingly. So this was towards 99 end, but by the time I quit my job, I joined, I served my notice period. There was a big boom in the internet funding space. So there were lots of VCs and they were funding companies in the internet space, and InfoEdge also got approached by a few of them. And as luck would have it, we got funded. But when we got funded, the VC said, listen, you guys are doing too many things. We don't want you to focus on too many things. We want you to focus on one business. So stop doing the other stuff for the time being and focus on Naukri and make it big. And when that happened, I sort of put FUCCHA on the back burner and moved into Naukri full time without a job. Because Naukri was a small setup at that time, doing about 2-3 lakhs a month of revenue with about 10-12 people who were doing data entry work and so on. And when I moved into Naukri, I said, let me just think of what I can do. And coming from HLL, I had a background in commercial, sales, supply chain management, marketing. So I decided to help set up the sales and marketing piece in Naukri.com.
Okay.
That was my sort of first thing. So I became director of sales and marketing at that time, and helped set up the sales and marketing function. And the idea, of course, behind this move was to do something different, to be independent. That was a big thing, So and of course, I have a background in technology, so it sounded exciting. The whole idea of the internet and doing something which is consumer oriented but uses technology, right? And plus, I knew that a regular career in HLL would take me out of Delhi very soon, which is what I did not want to do. Right, being a Delhiite at that time. So I wanted to be in Delhi also. So that was another sort of.
So it was a personal and a professional.
Exactly.
We can say.
Yeah.
Call. Okay. Then there is another thing. How has your overall experience with InfoEdge been? I mean, Naukri.com has established itself well in the universe in India, and talking about your other products, Jeevan Sathi. Then we have you have also 99 acres, FUCCHA, and we'll talk about startups after this, but startup funding after this. But these products, how do you see? Them doing?
See, the truth is that when we got funded in Naukri, we were a very small startup. Doing 2-3 lakhs a month of revenue, we could not even imagine doing 20 lakhs a month.
Right.
Because when you were very small and you're doing 2 lakhs a month, you think about doing 3 lakhs a month, 4 lakhs a month, 5 lakhs a month. And I was not from a business family, nor was Sanjeev, so we did not have that background. But when we got funded, we had to submit a business plan. And to get funded, you have to submit an aggressive business plan. So we submitted an aggressive business plan and said, listen, we'll do 20 crores after 5 years. Right? And that was not aggressive enough for VC, because VC said, listen, if you want to do only 20 crores, it's not good enough. If you want to get funded, you have to do more. So that set us thinking, that got us thinking. So we didn't change our plan. We said, okay, this is very, very difficult for us to do. If this happens, we'll be very happy, but we'll do our best. And that got us thinking. And one thing led to another. And from 30 lakhs a year, we went to 1 crore a year. From 1 crore a year, we went to 3 crores. From 3, we went to 9, then 19, then 47, then 85, and so on. So, it's very hard to predict what is going to happen in a startup, right? And Naukri succeeded. And on hindsight, we can all debate and discuss as to why it succeeded. But the truth is that we did not know why it succeeded, right?
Okay.
Of course, all of us put in a lot of effort, but many things have to go right for you to succeed.
Yeah.
In business, even if you have the best people, even if you have the best sort of ideas and a lot of resources, you could still fail. Now, once Naukri succeeded, we decided to get into other categories. So Jeevan Sathi is something we sort of we had started at that time, but when ICICI told us to focus only on Naukri, we gave Jeevan Sathi to somebody else. We got it in house once again. We started looking at real estate. We started looking at education. Basically, categories which were big in print at that time, which were in the nature of online marketplaces. Okay, which we understood, how to get people to sort of handshake on the internet. And we went after them. Now, it's been a mixed bag till now. It's been, 99 acres is doing phenomenally well. It's growing rapidly. It's a large market. Jeevan Sathi has had a tough time for the last few years. There is very strong competition in that category. We are number 3 player. And FUCCHA is sort of innovating and though it's very small, it's doing well. How big this business will become, how successful will they become, very hard to say at this point in time. We are putting in our best effort, but it's been a great journey so far. People are excited, team is excited, opportunity is great. Internet, it is not what it used to be. There were like maybe a few thousand internet connections in the country in 1999 when we started. Today there are 120 million internet users. So the market is a lot bigger than it was then.
Right.
So hopefully things will work out in all these categories as well. Today we are investing in all of them.
I could, in fact, this was the next thing we were coming to. You've been funding a couple of startups of late.
We funded 9.
9 of them, in fact. I was reading it somewhere. You have given, I think, 9 crore rupees to MyDala, then Zomato. You have
much more.
Much more.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what is the where do you see? One question is, have these startups been able to meet your short-term expectations? 1. 2 is that where do you wish to see these startups, 10 years down the line? I think something that happened with you in the past, there was an investor, you are playing that same role here.
So, once Naukri became profitable, and once we became clear leaders, and once we started generating a lot of cash, we had 2 options. 1, to take Naukri abroad. 2, to get into more areas in India, to diversify our business.
I was about to ask you that. Why not take it globally like
So we decided against it at that time. We felt that some of the attractive markets in the world at that time already had players in them, and it's very hard to displace the number 1 player in any market.
Right.
And we also felt that the sort of emerging markets would take long to develop, and we felt that India was a great opportunity. And like I mentioned, we understand marketplaces. We thought we could sort of get into other categories in India and make them succeed. And that's how we got into 99 acres, Jeevan Sathi, and even today we generate 120 crores of cash every year. And we have 500 crores of cash in the balance sheet. Now, like I said, when we got into the internet space in India, there were a few thousand internet connections. Today there are 120 million users. 5 years from now, there will be maybe 500 million, 400 million, I don't know what the number will be. So therefore, the truth is that the opportunity in India is huge in the internet space. It's very hard to build a business, but it's going to be, it's a large space. And there were so many opportunities and so many things we could have done, right? But we were limited by our bandwidth inside the company. We were already doing 3 or 4 things. It was not possible for us to do many more things inside the company. So we hit upon this idea and said, listen, why not fund other companies and other startups and other entrepreneurs and mentor them and sort of help them build their business. And in doing so, 2 things happen. 1, of course, the company grows. 2, we get to use our cash. And 3, we sort of, we also sort of, benefit from the opportunities in India. Right. So that's how we embarked upon this journey about 3 years ago. My partner Sanjeev, who was a CEO till then, started focusing full time on investing outside, while I became CEO and started running the internal sort of business of the company. That's how we divided our work. Though we of course work with each other. So now the initial, one or 2 early investments did not succeed, right? but we've invested in 9 companies, and I think we're getting better and better with every deal, and we are very happy with the way some of these companies are now going. So I think companies like Zomato and Merit Nation, Maidala are doing reasonably well. We had to take a couple of write-offs, but that is because the market was tough, not that the teams were bad, and some of the businesses require a lot of capital. And there are a couple of others which are, I think, leaders in their category, like Policy Bazaar and some which are very unique businesses like Happily Unmarried and Canberra, which we are also confident of. Now, some of these will become very big, but I'm sure most of them will do very, very well.
Okay. We did not talk about Quadrangle.
So Quadrangle, the story behind Quadrangle is that, when we were small, when Naukri was a 30 lakh a year business, and just after we got funded, there was a dot-com bust. Now, in the bust, crazy things happened. Many companies who had raised capital were not able to raise more capital. Maybe a couple of hundred internet companies got funded in the dot-com boom. A handful of them survived the bust. Right? And people had no clue of how they would grow at that time. Revenue, at the end of the day, there were just 2 million internet users in 2001. Right? And revenue was hard to get in the internet space. So all kinds of theories and models were at work. And one of the models at work, theories at work, was that to survive in the internet space, you need to be an online plus offline player. Right? And that's how we got into the Quadrangle business. Quadrangle was an offline search firm. It was a small operation, about the same size as Naukri, run by people in the search space. And we sort of decided to merge with Quadrangle at that time. We thought we would have a better chance of succeeding and surviving the bust if we did that. Now, the truth is that Naukri started doing very well and started growing rapidly. Naukri is a very scalable business. It does not require headcount to scale, unlike Quadrangle. So what has happened over time is that Naukri has scaled maybe 500 times since the time we got funding. But Quadrangle has scaled maybe only 30 times or 40 times. So today, Quadrangle is a very small part of our business. But in the early years, Quadrangle was a large part of our business. It was an integral part of our business.
Then, talking about college kids now, what all do you think should a fresher or a FUCCHA do right from his first day in the college, in order to build a good profile, to get a promising career? Something from your mouth.
In college?
Yeah, I think that is the penultimate thing before someone starts a career. So it's very important.
So I think, if I go back to my college days, and I sort of want to look at what we did then and what we could have done differently. I think, of course, every student in college should study the subjects they are in college for and do a good job of that. So if you're doing your engineering, please study your engineering. If you're doing your economics, please study your economics. If you're doing your bachelor's in business, then please study your business courses. So get a good understanding of the courses which are being taught out there. One. Secondly, I think what students should try and do is get as much exposure to industry as possible early on, in my view. Right? So if possible, do a job, do an internship, work on a project, get some real life exposure as early as possible in your career. I think it helps. It helps phenomenally. So if you have 2 months off, 3 months off every year, see if you can do an internship somewhere, even if you have to work for free. Doesn't matter. But I think it helps tremendously. It helps build your perspective of what corporate life is like. I think third thing which students could do and should do in college is pick up some extra skills wherever possible. So if you're doing, let's say, a course in economics, can you also sort of pick up a little bit of programming in your spare time? Can you do that? It will help you at some point in life. Or if there are some activities which happen on campus, can you participate in those activities? Can you join a club? Can you pick up a sport? In general, so do stuff. So one is sort of focus on your core, what you're being taught in college. Two is try and pick up a job, at least in your summer break or in your winter break, to get corporate exposure. And three, try and pick up other skills, as many as possible, whether it's leadership skills or whether it's hard skills like programming. It will help you at some point in time in your life. The students do have time.
And how can First Naukri help these college kids?
So First Naukri, the idea behind First Naukri was to help college kids with placement. Right, and that's what we will try to do. It's very hard because there are certain ways in which companies hire people. They go to select campuses. They have a process which they run. They have separate departments which do this. There is a system in place when it comes to the top campuses that they have day 0 companies, day 1 companies, day 2 companies. We were trying to sort of enable this whole process online.
Okay.
You know, why should there be, for example, in my view, if you ask me, why should there be a concept of day 0, day 2, day 1, day 3? You know, students should be able to apply to any company anytime, and if they get a job, great. Why should the hiring one campus be restricted to the 5 days on campus?
Okay.
Right? If students can get internships throughout the year and they get hired to those companies, great. Right, so the idea, so we at that point when we started first off, we thought that the process of campus hiring currently in this country, one does not exist in many places. Two, wherever it exists, is very inefficient.
Right.
And we thought we could use the internet to make it a little more efficient.
Okay, that
was a broad concept. Success so far has been limited, but we are still at it.
Okay. Okay. Then your parent company has been growing leaps and bounds, and in fact the profit after tax has grown from a small 24.36 million back in 2003-04 to a whopping 112, I must say 1226
million,
almost million rupees in 2011-12. What in your view has contributed the most to this success?
So like I said, you know, hindsight is 20/20, and we keep debating as to what got us here. But if I were to sort of look back and pick up, you know, 4 or 5 things which we did right, I think one, early on in our one, of course, we were early in the space in which we are leaders today. So we were one of the first companies in recruiting on. You know, we were not as, it's not as if we started 5 years after anybody else. We were one of the early ones. So that was an advantage. Two, we got funded and we did not waste the money we raised. Okay. Like I mentioned to you, there was a dot-com boost, a boom, which was followed by a dot-com bust. Many companies which raised money around the same time we raised money, spent it very badly, burnt it, and were not able to raise money again. Okay. And they did not survive as a result. So we were frugal, we did not spend the money foolishly. We used the money to build sales capability, to get more revenue. And that took us to profitability very, very fast. Okay. And as a result of which we survived the bust. So I think that helped us. Thirdly, you know, we've always been innovative. So so the products that we started with today contribute to less than 20% of our revenue. Or 10, maybe 15% of our revenue. So some of the big hits came in after 2-3 years of funding. So one of our largest products, the database access product, did not exist when we got funded. We launched it about 2 or 3 years after we got funding, and it became a big hit. So I think this sort of constant desire to innovate, to create something new, to try out various things is very important in the space we operate, and that helped us. 4, of course, like I said, we got the sales system right, and I think that was a big thing because many companies floundered, even though they had good products, because they had no sales coming in. So the fact that we were able to put a great sales system in place, scale it up, you know, the fact that we managed to hire good people, retain them, you know, some of our top managers in the company today, people who run, you know, various businesses, have been around for 12 years, 11 years. They've been with the company, they've done well, and they've hung on, and we also value them. And today they're doing many other things. So I think it's very hard to say what was the one thing which made us sort of succeed, but I think some of these things helped.
Okay, then what is the possible recruitment trend you see? What would be your forecast for maybe next 1 year or next 5 years, I must say? And which sector do you look the most promising?
It's very hard to say because you know, the five years ago the story was very different. 5 years ago the joke was
everybody at this point of time is, you know, concerned. There is a shakeout in the market. There's an election here. In the US, we were just reading yesterday that US is in great debt, 15 point something trillion dollars. They are churning out tax revenues to the tune of around 2.3 trillion dollars. So the debt to equity ratio is high, and a lot of market. In fact, the services market is dependent on the US.
Sure.
This thing. So services sector will take a hit maybe, or what will happen? We want to know it from the expert.
So one, I'm not an expert, but what I can tell you is that 5 years ago when India was growing at 9%, it was hard to get people. It was impossible to hire people. Every software developer was, you know, had at least 3 jobs in his pocket. Okay, and HR managers to keep like that. Right. Today, of course, things are very different. GDP growth is now down to 5.5% year on year. One doesn't know when it is going to start looking up again. Right? One is always hopeful, and one hopes that, you know, we'll get to 6% and 6.5% and then 7% in the next 1 or 2 years. If that were to happen, then all these issues will go away. I think at 6.5-7% GDP growth, we'll be fine. But if this does not happen in the near future, then we are in for tough times. right? Because as far as white collar job creation goes, the one sector which really saw this country through for the last, I think, 15 years was IT.
Right.
Right. At least 3 or 4 million high quality white collar jobs are created in IT, which will not happen for the next 5 or 10 years, right? Because IT companies are not growing at 50% year on year anymore; they're growing at 10-15%, and also they're trying to do stuff which does not require that much manpower. Right. So they're trying to get more and more productive. So it's not. So IT companies, unless something really changes in the US, will not hire like they've hired in the past, in the future, especially on campus. This means that India needs other sectors which will take up the slack, right? And one sector where we could have done very well on the employment side is infrastructure. This whole sort of business of building roads and highways and power plants and bridges and the resultant impetus that would have been given that manufacturing would have got as a result, because that manufacturing also can create a lot of jobs. Unfortunately, that is not happening as we speak. So we need people in the government who are focused on job creation, who are focused on removing unemployment, who are focused on getting people skilled with the right skills, which is what industry needs today. And unless until that happens, we are in for tough times for the next at least couple of years.
In fact, our next question, you've talked of skills. We have something on that front. We were seeing that there is huge unemployment these days in our country, and we've already talked about that, and particularly in the engineering and the MBA domain, I must say. Maybe because they are churning out more graduates each year, and with not those many number of jobs. That's one side. While industry is facing huge acute manpower shortage, on the other side there is a huge supply, but people are not trained.
Yeah.
So what steps should be taken by different stakeholders to improve the situation from here? And how has it affected your business? Two questions.
So unfortunately, what happens in India is that there is a herd mentality out there, right? So if like 20 years ago when I passed out, everybody wanted to be a doctor or an engineer. Today, at least, people want to be an MBA, somebody wants to be a lawyer, at least there are some other professions they've opened up. The truth is that industry does not need too many MBAs. Industry does not need too many engineers, right? So if India graduates 1 million engineers every year, we don't need 1 million engineers. We graduate 1 million, but find it very difficult to hire even 200,000 or 300,000 because
that is
we don't graduate the right quality of engineers. We don't skill them properly. We don't train them properly. Companies have to start all over again. Right. So so companies, so if you look at fresher salaries, while fresher salaries have been stagnating for the last 4 to 5 years on most campuses. So in real terms, have actually gone down. There's massive inflation. Similarly, there are lakhs of students who go on to do an MBA, right? But MBA colleges don't have great faculty. They don't offer a good industry interface. They don't have great placement, and companies who hire MBAs have to virtually start from scratch.
Right.
As far as training is concerned. So there's a lot of inefficiency in the whole system, right? People are doing stuff they should not be doing. Companies don't know sort of when they hire people who have degrees, but they have to train them from scratch. In certain areas where there are people required, there is nobody taking those courses, doing those courses, because they're perceived to be, for some reason, not white collar. Okay. The truth is that if you're a long distance truck driver today, you get paid more than an IT professional. That's the truth, right? If starting salary is higher than that of an IT professional,
I see.
Right? So I'm not talking about the IT guys who graduate from IIT. I'm talking about the tier 3 guys, who graduate out of tier 3 engineering schools. So there's a mismatch out there, and I think effort should be made in ensuring that people are sort of coached and mentored and guided to do the right kind of courses, right? Number 1. Number 2, effort should be made to improve the quality of education in our institutes, whether it's engineering colleges or MBA colleges or DU courses. And number 3, companies I think also need to do sort of something to break this, myth that you have to be an MBA to get a job in a company. So I think if institutes, even graduate institutes, colleges, can work closely with companies and ensure that they have a good internship program in place, you will find a lot of things changing.
Okay. And how has it affected the business of Naukri?
So Naukri, so listen, our business depends on the total volume of hiring in the economy, right? And there are two kinds of hiring which companies do. So if I'm InfoEdge and I have 2,500 people, I have some attrition every year, right? So let's say I have 20% attrition. So that means I lose 500 people every year, and therefore to stay at the same number, I need to hire 500 people, right? On the other hand, if I want to grow, I need to go beyond 2,500. I need to get to 3,000 people. So I need to hire another 500 people. So I need to hire 1,000 people to go from 2,500 to 3,000 in a year. This is a good year. Now let's, assuming the economy is not doing well, two things happen. One, InfoEdge will say, listen, I don't want to go to 3,000 people. I want to go to only 2,600 people. So that means I need to hire 100 people to go from 2,500 to 2,600. And my attrition rate also falls. So instead of 20% attrition, I have now 12% attrition, which means to stay at the same number, I need 300 people. So suddenly my overall hiring goes from 1,000 to 400. So this impacts our business, right? Because it makes our business cyclical, right? Which means that in a good year we grow rapidly, we do better than the economy, and in a bad year we actually do worse than the economy. Now the reason we are still growing actually, even though hiring has fallen in absolute terms, is because we are a market leader. Right. So what happens is when companies start cutting, if they want to hire 1,000 people, instead of 1,000 they want to hire 400, they first cut the source of hiring which is the most expensive. So they start shopping recruitment firms. So listen, you guys are very expensive to use, we don't want to use you. Then they start shopping, they chop the number 3 player. Then they chop the number 2 player. And because they still need to hire 400 people, they still go with us. Right? So therefore to that extent we are protected. But of course with us also they start negotiating, they start, they want discounts, they don't want to pay in advance, and many other things happen. You don't have too many new companies entering the market. So we don't make money from them because new companies tend to hire a lot of people and they spend a lot of money on recruitment. So it does hurt our business. As a result, what has happened is that we are now growing in single digits in Naukri, while we were growing at maybe in 2010-11, when the market recovered, we grew at close to 30-40%.
I see.
On the other hand, so now if growth comes back, if GDP growth starts growing at 6.5-7% year on year, then suddenly attrition rates will go up, salaries will go up, companies will want to expand, and they will want to double their hiring, and our growth rate.
So there is a strong correlation, we can say, with the economy.
Actually, we have very high beta. So if the economy grows at 5%, we will grow at 10%. But if the economy grows at 7.5%, we will grow at 30% also.
Okay.
Because companies are then desperate to hire.
Right. So then you have different businesses: recruitment, real estate, matrimony, and then education. Of all these sectors, where you have your business, which one looks the most promising and why? In future,
so of course jobs is big for us. We make a lot of money in jobs. We are market leaders. We have 61% traffic share. We are dominant. So jobs will continue to be sort of good for us. Of course, there could be a period of when the economy is slow and we may not grow as rapidly as we have in the past. But I'm sure growth will come back at some point in time. The other category which really excites us is real estate, and for multiple reasons. One, of course, we are again a market leader in real estate. We are not dominant like we are in Naukri, but we are a market leader. We are already doing a lot of revenue. So last year we did close to 53-54 crores of revenue in real estate, and we sort of kind of broke even. Number 3, it's a big business, in big category. So there's a lot of money being spent on real estate advertising in print.
Right.
And we believe that all this money is going to move online at some point in time. So even internationally, the real estate sites are in many countries bigger than job sites. Right. So we believe that this is a huge opportunity for us, and if we execute well, we can build a big business in this category. FUCCHA is also an interesting category. It's a big category in print, a lot of money, and India is very unique in that sense because there's a big market for education advertising in India. There are lots of private colleges, private universities, and they spend a lot of money on education advertising. And from a student point of view also, there's a lot of confusion out there on who should be doing what courses add value, what courses don't add value, what courses get you good jobs, what courses don't get you jobs. So students need advice. So we believe there's a big opportunity here. We are still very small in this space, but we are growing rapidly. We are leaders, and if we execute well, I think we can build a good business in this category. Jeevan Sathi is a tricky one because we are number 3. We are trying out a bunch of new things. We are doing reasonably well in the north. We believe we are number 2 in the north. If one or two of these click, then we will be through.
Okay. Then we are seeing 2 things happening both at the same time. One, that the spend on print, like you said, is coming down maybe, and there is that proportion of this marketing spend is moving to digital. And we have already built up a strong internet penetration with around 120 million people. That remains true, but we have a relatively poor infrastructure in internet technology, which can prove to be a big bottleneck in the growth of businesses which are online, like it is for most of your businesses, I think all of your businesses. So how do you intend to overcome these challenges?
See, we can't do too much about the infrastructure in this company as far as the internet is concerned. We can only wait for things to happen. Of course, we have an association, we work, and the Internet and Mobile Association of India, which I used to chair till last year, which works very hard. It tries to work with the government and sort of tries to get them to work and do some stuff in this area. But the truth is, it will take time, right? But we are optimistic and we are hopeful that a lot of things will change in the next 2 or 3 years. With 3G licenses being given out, with 4G also being rolled out, with smartphone penetration increasing, and with prices of smartphones falling. See, the truth is, there are just maybe the installed base of PCs in India is maybe not more than 50, 60, 70 million PCs. So to go beyond that, and maybe PCs are shared, so we have 100 million users who access the net through PCs. But to go beyond that number will mean that a lot of people have to buy PCs, right? And PC growth is slowing down, and PCs are expensive, right? And maybe that is one reason why internet penetration is also not picking up, because people maybe access the net from office, but they don't have a PC at home. I think with smartphone penetration increasing, and smartphones are available starting at $5,000, and with 3G prices falling, we will create a new market out there of people who will experience the internet for the first time on their phone. Okay. Now, whether they will be able to access the internet a lot will depend on what happens to prices of bandwidth, right? But certainly, we expect the number of people who access the internet to grow phenomenally because of smartphones, right? Whether they will be able to get world-class broadband at reasonable prices remains to be seen. I'm hoping that will happen at some point in time.
Okay.
And when that happens, when you're always on the internet, and the internet is always on, and you have high-speed access, then the internet sort of activity in this country will go through the roof.
And with the smartphone penetration increasing at an exponential pace, I think even companies like Google are facing problems with their mobile revenues.
Yeah.
So I hope you must be facing some challenges on that front.
So what is happening is that because mobile is always on, and because it's always with you, a lot of people are now, and the phones are becoming more and more powerful. A lot of people are using the mobile phone to access the internet, right? Now, it varies from category to category, but Google, I'm told, gets more than half their queries on the internet now, or on the mobile phone now,
right.
The search queries.
Right.
In the verticals in which we operate, verticals where we have a lot of young users, and verticals where we have a lot of low-income users, we see a lot of activity on the phone, because these guys don't have access to PCs at home, right? Therefore, you need to develop, as a service provider, as a company, good good products for the phone as well, right? And if you don't do that, you don't deliver a good experience to users on the phone, and they either end up going elsewhere, or they stop using your services, right? Some of the issues which companies on the web are facing on the mobile phone is that the monetization of the phone is not as good as it is on the web.
Right.
But I think it's a matter of time. Once people start putting their head to it, they'll crack these issues as well.
From the time when Naukri.com started business to now, a lot has changed in the way businesses used to happen on the internet. there is huge competition in the market. I think there was nothing in the Naukri space when it started probably. What is your growth strategy in the competitive environment?
You know, like I said, we are cash rich, so we are not short of funds. We have 3 or 4 verticals inside the company. We are growing aggressively. We have a few companies outside which we are sort of funding. We are hopeful that at least 4 or 5 of these will become really big businesses in the next 3 or 4 years. The other thing we are worried about is innovation, disruptive technologies, disruptive business models. And the only way to guard against that, and the only way to sort of ensure that your business is still relevant, is for you to sort of, do this yourself. So you don't wait for somebody else to do this to you, you do it to yourself. So we have to keep investing in innovation. We have to keep investing in hiring the right people, in hiring talent, in getting people who can sort of do cutting edge work and take our products and services to the next level. So that's the only mantra for success. So what we can do as a company is to, of course, provide resources and to create the right environment and hope to attract the best talent who will then deliver products which consumers need.
Okay. And any message you would have for FUCCHAs of our country?
So, what I want to tell FUCCHAs is, listen, the environment is not what it used to be.
Right.
The market will continue to be tight for a while. Therefore, the people who passed out 5 years before you, 10 years before you had a great time. They had it easy. And that may not be the case with you guys. So therefore, you need to work harder. You need to give it your best shot. You need to sort of spend time at college learning what you're supposed to learn. Start sort of early, pick up a job, pick up an internship, get some real skills. Because what I can assure you is that even in a tight market, there will be jobs for good people. But the market will start differentiating. Earlier, 5 years ago, anybody could get a job. But if the market becomes a little tight, then people with real skills, people who are good, they will get jobs because there will always be jobs for good people, but others will find it difficult. So pick up real skills.
Okay. So we'd like to thank Mr. Hitesh. This is Sunny Talwar with Tarun Bhardwaj from Team FUCCHA.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.